and all these handsome people that are out there that we are going to see. Anyway, the Redevelopment Agency meeting of July 16th, 2014 is called to order. This meeting has been properly noticed and posted in compliance with the open meeting law. These proceedings are being video recorded as well as presented live on KCLV, Cable Channel 2, and are closed captioned for hearing impaired viewers. Please note some customers of Cox Communication who do not have a cable box may view this meeting on digital channel 89.5. The Redevelopment Agency meeting, as well as all other KCLV programming, may be viewed on the city's website at www.kclv.tv. The proceedings will be rebroadcast on KCLV Channel 2 and the web the Wednesday of the meeting at 8 p.m., also on Friday at 4 a.m., Saturday at 7 p.m., Sunday at 7 a.m., following Monday at 1 p.m. This building is protected by state-of-the-art fire detection and suppression sprinkler system. If alarms should activate during today's meetings, please evacuate using the exits at the back of chambers out to the mezzanine. Proceed out the double doors to the terrace down the back staircase. For anyone who has difficulty with stairs, please check with a marshal or fire official for assistance. Once outside, assemble on the northeast corner across the street from City Hall at Lewis and First. Employees wearing safety vests or city marshals will inform you when it's safe to re-enter the building. For public comment related to items on the agenda, citizen participation, public hearing items, we have available a speaker card which you may complete and submit to the city clerk. Cards are available online in the clerk's office or at the rear of these chambers. If you do not submit a card, it does not prevent you from speaking under public comment, citizen participation, or specified public hearing items. If anyone present today has need for hearing impaired equipment, please come forward and see our city clerk staff. If you parked in the parking garage across the street and did not receive a validation ticket as you entered the building, please exit to your right and see the security personnel at the entrance. We will move on to agenda item 3. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. The amount of time any single speaker is allowed may be limited. All comments made will be cross-referenced to those specific items. If anyone submitted a speaker card who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda, please come to the podium and state your name for the record. Okay, we have no one coming forward. We'll move on to agenda item 4. For possible action to approve the final minutes by reference of the regular Redevelopment Agency meeting of June 4th and June 18th, 2014. May I have a motion to approve these minutes, please?
Move for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion. Please cast your vote and then please post. That motion carries. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 5. Discussion for possible action regarding a professional consulting agreement addendum between the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency and FFM LLC DBA Foley Warren for additional economic development, market public relation initiatives promoting downtown Las Vegas. This is redevelopment area and redevelopment area 1 and 2. This is wards 1, 3, and 5 council persons, Tarkanian, Coffin, and Barlow. Mr. Arndt, good morning. Good morning, ladies.
Morning.
Good morning, Mayor and members of council. With me today are Melissa Warren and Nancy Higgins. We had this item on the May 21st Redevelopment Agency meeting, and we had a proposed addendum for additional marketing and public relations services at that time, and you had asked us to bring back an addendum at that meeting. We've already approved a retainer agreement for the current fiscal year for $150,000. This addendum that you asked us to bring back would be for additional services in the amount of $54,000, which includes $42,000 for the fiscal year for conducting familiarization tours with national and international writers and reporters. And I'm going to let Melissa explain the significance of that work. And then $12,000 per year for assisting downtown owners and operators with essentially free publicity for their new store openings. And this is something that we've done the past few years to help small businesses generate publicity for their business, particularly a lot of the retail and food and beverage businesses where publicity is really important to help drive customers through their storefront. So with that, I'd like to turn it over to Melissa, who's going to outline the scope of work, and then be glad to answer any questions or have Melissa answer questions as well.
Thank you. Please. Good morning.
Good morning, Mayor, members of the City Council. Melissa Warren, Managing Partner, Fess Foley Warren Public Relations. By way of reminder, our contract, you can switch the slide. I wanted to map it out for you here. On the left side, you see the scope of work that was approved on May 21st, which includes the newsletter, the business testimonial videos, and website management and content creation for downtown.vegas. What we're talking about today is on the right side of your screen, as Bill mentioned, the familiarization tours for media and small business publicity. At that time, you asked us to sit down with city staff and identify any areas that may be eliminated or underserved based on the approval of that reduced contract on May 21st. So these two items are what we have determined would go away as a result of that. And these two areas, the tours and the small business publicity, by their very nature are difficult for the existing city communications staff to pick up. Number one, the tours are extremely labor intensive. They often occur weekends, evenings, all kinds of crazy hours at the whim of the journalists. And in terms of small business publicity, we know that it is difficult for the city to specifically promote specific businesses. So these are the two areas we've identified. To help you better understand the importance and the impact of these tours, we've prepared some statistics for you. This year we've already pitched, secured, and facilitated approximately 24 familiarization tours involving nearly 60 different media outlets with combined circulation of 65 million. That coverage equates to about $617,000 in ad value, which by PR standards equates to $1.9 million in publicity value. And it's interesting to note that since this slide was prepared a couple of weeks ago, we've already added an additional 2 new tours with 2 new media outlets in the upcoming weeks. On an average, we manage and conduct 4 tours a month. These tours have already generated several articles in publications such as Phoenix Magazine, Travel Weekly, Vancouver Sun, Kansas City Star, and broadcast coverage on AAA television shows in Phoenix, Tucson, Denver, Raleigh, and Charlotte. And many more news stories are expected. It's interesting to note that sometimes it can take up to 6 months for the stories to appear in print, especially when we're dealing with international media with long lead times. On the next slide, we want to just make the point that we are very inclusive. We reach out to dozens of downtown businesses to be part of these tours. We want to not only provide as many opportunities to them as possible, but we want to create a very rich, diverse, stimulating downtown experience for visiting media. Not only do we pitch the tours, but we build the itineraries, we secure free food, free hospitality for the journalists, we physically lead the tours, we follow up with them afterward to track for our media report. So, it is a very long and labor-intensive process. Here are just a few testimonials, very few, from some of the businesses that have benefited from these tours. The second area that we identified, as Bill mentioned, is small business publicity. And, this includes helping new businesses with grand openings, with media outreach, assisting with ribbon cuttings, and tracking. And we've worked with such entities in this capacity as White Cross Market, Not Just Antiques Mart, Wild, Vegas Roots Community Garden, and Stitch Factory, and many, many more. And finally, a summary of the proposed costs that would be associated with these 2 tasks, the FAM tours, $3,500 a month, the small business publicity, $1,000 a month. I'm happy to take any questions.
If I could, I think this is very exciting. Do you work or copy or inform our David Riggleman, so it's in concert, so he knows that if we'd like to suggest a piggyback to some information? Are you in concert there?
Yes,
And are
yes.
you also in concert with the LVCVA?
Absolutely.
Because I see so much of your work is abroad.
Right. A lot of these opportunities come directly through the LVCVA, so we work very, very closely with them, and David and I communicate frequently.
And so when you're reporting, obviously, work most closely with our EUD.
Correct.
Our Economic and Urban
Correct.
Development, so they know here's something new, or it's not coming, so you're not wasting time, but you are attending to somebody who's just about to open and meeting with them.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Very exciting.
Madam Mayor,
Councilwoman, please.
Could you let me know the items upon which you worked in redevelopment 2, redevelopment area 2?
Bowhead, we worked very closely with Bowhead, the drone company. We were asked to assist them with their grand opening, and I know you were a part of that event as well. So yes, we supported them with media outreach, with their press release, with getting elected officials to their event.
Was there anybody besides Bowhead?
No, to be honest, most of our work is centered in the downtown area.
My only comment then would be if you could look a little more at Ward 1.
Okay.
In the redevelopment area 2. And Bowhead has been a little bit of a disappointment to me as the ward representative there because they had said how they would go out into the community, and they have really not come out into the community in Ward 1. Now, they may have other places, I don't know, but they have not in Ward 1.
Yeah,
And
they
I
made
don't
a
know if
big
you-
splash initially, you're right.
Excuse me?
They made a big splash initially, and I haven't
They
seen.
made a big splash initially. We gave them all the help we could give them. We attended everything. We spread the word. And after that splash, and after I believe they obtained some of that federal money that was coming out for that type of technology, we haven't heard anything. And they said they would be very involved within the community and give help to others who maybe don't have those technology skills but need those skills in order to get better jobs.
Right.
So maybe you might even talk with them. I just, I wanted to let you know that. That's the only
We will-
one we've
we will
helped,
do
and
that.
they haven't really given back to the community.
I will follow up with them. And we are happy to take calls from any of you. If you have identified businesses that need our assistance, please call us and let us know, and we will absolutely follow through.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Coffin,
Thank you. I
please.
was going to say the small business publicity angle is where Ward 3 has benefited, and it is true that most of the work they have done is downtown. They react to what the council office asks for. So if you don't ask them for help, they won't know maybe that a small business needs help. We're usually their only point of contact other than the folks that issue the licenses. So I found that they are good, reactive, and they help people who want to be helped. Most people do when they want to start up a business, and then they're down on the ground working hard, and they forget about publicity. So it's like anything else; it's got to be kept going if it's that kind of a business. But you've done well for us. You helped the White Cross get off the ground. You've helped a little beauty salon down on Clark or someplace like that. I mean,
Globe.
there's no business too small to raise attention to them, and I think that's the key. And people really get a kick out of that. It's not just the business owner, but those who come and those other businesses in the neighborhood think, well, gee, I can get that done for me too. And so it brings up the morale of a new business person who's scared to death. They're extended, they don't have the money, and now they're worried about where the business is going to come from. But what we've done is give them a shot in the arm and let them know the city's behind them, and that's helped some of them survive. So I just want to thank you for that work that you've done, and I really appreciate this additional scope.
Thank you.
So I thank the manager for working this out.
Thank
to
you, and I'd
assist.
like to make sure that we, as council and mayor, know what is the best communication method. As we get something coming into any one of our offices, and it is a request perhaps for service, isn't it better that we maybe go, what you tell us, what is best, to go through you and you will be contacting, or do we call immediately to Face Foley? Do we go through Mr. Riggleman? What is the best way so we're not losing the connection that we need to have?
Mayor, thank you. Good question. Two suggestions. One would be to start with me in my office, and then we can engage Melissa and her team if they're the appropriate vehicle. The second thing is we have a publicity toolkit that we offer to small businesses as part of what we've done in the past. As part of the engagement with Melissa and her team, we're retooling and revamping our website so that it'll be more accessible to the business community. So I think that's going to be helpful with our outreach, and certainly to the councilwoman's question, you don't know to ask for a service if you don't know it's there. So I think as we outreach to the business community, the call to action, so to speak, will be to try to drive them to our website to understand what the service is, what exactly we can do for them. So we're working on that as we speak. They've done a lot of work already, and I think it's going to greatly improve the small businesses accessing the services of our office.
Do you have a timeline, or has Mr. Marcella given you one as to when that will be ready?
We're actually doing it, since it's for the redevelopment agency, off the city server, so to speak, where it's on a private third-party site, which allows us to move quite a bit faster. And then long-term, we will integrate it with the city's site as best we can. I don't have off the top of my head, a really good time frame, but I think
A couple of weeks by the end of the month.
probably really the first quarter of this year it'll be fully launched, and we could certainly update you at this meeting about that.
This fiscal year you're talking about?
Yes.
Our
Right,
first
the end of
quarter.
the first quarter of our fiscal year, so by early mid-fall it should be ready.
Great, great. Thank you. We're just excited. All right, would someone like to, does this request need a motion?
Right, so the request is to approve the additional scope and the funding. We've identified another funding source within the redevelopment agency where we're moving funds from a consulting line item where we have money set aside for appraisals and things like that. It means we're going to have to manage that other funding source and those expenses very tightly, but we think we have funds to fund this additional scope.
We think, or we do?
We have funds available.
Okay.
We have funds available, so what we're going to have to do is manage that other expense more closely and make sure that we fund those expenses within the tighter budget.
Okay. Thank you.
Move for approval.
Thank you. This motion, and please vote, and then please post. That motion carries. Thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Delighted. We'll move
Thank
on
you.
to agenda item, I always stick pages, 6. Discussion for possible action regarding the Third Amendment to Disposition and Development Agreement, DDA, between the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, RDA, and Las Vegas ICE LLC to modify the preliminary site plan, scope of development, and schedule of performance regarding the real property generally located at the southeast corner of Clark and Las Vegas Boulevard. This is in redevelopment area 3, Ward 3, Councilman Coffin, and I see a friend of ours there. Good morning. Again, Mr. Hart.
Good morning. Thank you, Mayor. This item is really a cleanup amendment to help our development partner, who's with us today, finish the construction for the Federal Justice Tower, which is at the corner of Las Vegas Boulevard and Clark. The tenant has asked for some changes to the interior plans, which has forced our development partner to revise their tenant improvement plans, get approval from the tenant, the GSA, and come back through our Development Services Center. Happy to report that he has approval from his tenant and is making his way through our Development Services team, and we don't see any issues there. And so this amendment is to extend the completion date a little bit past what he really needs. We're asking for an extension to May 1st of 2015, just in case there are any future changes from the federal government. But as I turn it over to Steve Biagiotti, our partner, He's happy to report that he'll be well in advance of that deadline and has some other news to share. So with that, I'll turn it over to Steve.
Good morning, Mayor and members of City Council. I'm Steve Biagiotti, the president of SDA Inc., the developer of this property, and I appreciate your patience as the federal government has delayed me in completing the building. However, we, since June, are 100% signed everything I need to get this building complete in February. The federal government has signed and I have signed. So we are moving ahead. I expect to have them accept the building and start paying me rent in February, which will be a very good thing, and start moving people in about 30 days after that. Construction will commence greater on the tenant improvements. I expect to average about 65 people during a day on the site in August, and then about 100 people a day in the months after that. So we'll have a lot of activity there. I couldn't be more excited about it. There's an additional, this property, we had always planned to do 1,000 square feet of retail. We have finalized the retail component, and we have signed a letter of intent for Starbucks on that space. And that Starbucks has requested we increase the space to 2,200 square feet, and we have sent administratively in that change on the building. Starbucks has told me in writing that I'm authorized to mention this today. And so I'm very excited about that. I think that'll be a wonderful use on Las Vegas Boulevard. So another plus for this great location and all the good things that are happening downtown. So I look forward in 2015 to touring all of you at the building, and we're very proud of what we've all worked together to accomplish here.
Wonderful. We're really thrilled. How much space also is left of retail space beyond Starbucks? None?
Starbucks was just had planned 1,000 square feet of retail in this property. So we're actually adding 1,200. So the building will be 100% leased. And we'll add the 1,200 square feet between, there's a 20-foot security setback from Las Vegas Boulevard to the building that has some special security items, and they will expand into that area.
Wonderful. Any questions, comments? Welcome. Yes, Councilman Coffin.
Thanks, Your Honor. I just heartily approve of what's going on here. It's just hard to believe it took so long. Now, the delay, and it's been at least a year, happened because the tenants decided they didn't like the way GSA had arranged or had agreed with you. Is that what happened? Or did they decide all of a sudden to make a change?
The way the federal government lease is written, the government has some time to negotiate with the landlord what the cost of the tenant improvements are. Because I basically gave them an allowance for the tenant improvements, and if it was going to cost more, they had to pay me for that addition. And we spent a year, Councilman, negotiating what that number was going to be, and that number was staggeringly close to my original number and quite a bit higher than their original number, and it's a fair number. So it was just a matter of the government trying to make absolutely certain that they weren't wasting any taxpayer money.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's a good explanation as any. It's politic. I guess I can move for approval, Your Honor.
I laughed before I turned on my microphone. Thank you. So, therefore, would you like to make the motion?
I have done that, so, and I move for approval, and we're proud to have it as a permanent fixture on the skyline.
Thank you. There's a motion. Please vote, and please post. Unanimous.
Thank you.
Yay. Thank you very much. We love getting rent from the government. We just love that. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 7, discussion for possible action regarding the award of modification number 3 to contract number 120059-PH Ratify and approve modification number 2 to contract number 120059-PH, Small Business Development Partnership located at 1951 Stella Lake Street. Department of Economic and Urban Development award recommended to Board of Regents, NSHE, OBO, University of Nevada, Reno, UNR. This is in redevelopment area, and Ward 5, Councilman Barlow. Mr. Arndt.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is part of a professional services agreement with the university system, NSHE, and they have a project called Nevada Small Business Development Center, where they essentially provide turnkey small business advisory services to startups and small businesses looking to start and grow in Las Vegas. And they've traditionally been housed out of the university, but we were successful several years ago in recruiting them and placing them at the Las Vegas Business Center, now known as the Business Success Center, which is operated by the Urban Chamber of Commerce under a partnership with the city. They're a really important part of the Business Success Center in that they really provide free advisory services to those businesses to help them grow, not just the existing businesses that are tenants, but anyone in the community that's looking to start or grow a small business. They work very closely with our local SCORE chapter, the retired business executives, as well as the Small Business Administration. They have other funding, and our funding is to help match some federal funding that they have. This item really is a cleanup item to change the grant cycle and the administrative period. Their cycle was on a March to March basis, and we're changing it from a fiscal year to match our fiscal year from July to June. It's for a 2-year period. This contract has gone through our purchasing department and was negotiated through them. Our annual contribution is $50,400. That's already been appropriated. That's not changing. So the action today really isn't to approve funding or additional funding. It's really to change the grant cycle and the calendar year for our professional services agreement with NSHE for the Nevada Small Business Development Center. With that, I recommend approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, Councilman Barlow. It doesn't seem we have questions. It's yours.
Move for approval.
Thank you. There's a motion to approve. Please vote and please post. And that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Arndt. We'll move on to agenda item 8. Discussion for possible action regarding a parking lot license agreement between the City of Las Vegas Redevelopment Agency, RDA, and Project 100, Inc. Project 100 for 10 parking spaces in the Matlock parking lot located at 408 East Clark Street to be used for vehicle sharing program redevelopment. Area Ward 3, Councilman Barlow. And Mr. Arndt, please. Oh, look at all the Las Vegas blinking signs. Sorry, behind you. And they all work. We'd love to see them working. Isn't that great? Mr. Arndt, sorry.
All right, thank you, Mayor. This item is a lease agreement for a fixed number of spaces on our parcel of land at 4th and Clark. We do have a termination right should we proceed with future development, which we've earmarked for potential office or mixed-use development. We're leasing 10 parking spaces at this parking lot to Project 100, which is the effort to do a new transportation system downtown. And it's for 10 spaces for essentially for electric vehicles, neighborhood electric vehicles, which would include gem cars. Downtown Project owns one of those, bicycles, as well as neighborhood electric vehicles. They are going to be paying us a rate of $40 per space per month. That is under market of $70 per space per month, but it's guaranteed rent for the city. So rather than having to lease the spaces or meter the spaces, it's guaranteed rent. So that was a negotiated rate for us, and we think it's a fair rate. Also, these electric vehicles, as you know, have the right to be exempt from paying metered parking, but the operator, Project 100, wanted a fixed location to have these spaces to help with their transportation system. The contract is 2 years with one single 1-year extension at the request of Project 100 and the consent of the Redevelopment Agency. And again, we have a 60-day notice to terminate, which helps us execute any future development for that site. With that, staff recommends approval, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Councilman Coffin? Thank you. There's a motion to approve. Please vote and please post. And that motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Oren.
Thank you.
And citizen participation. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters within the jurisdiction of the redevelopment agency. No subject may be acted upon by the redevelopment agency unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. If you wish to be heard, please come to the podium, give your name for the record. The amount of discussion on any single subject, as well as the amount of time any single speaker is allowed, may be limited. Anyone wishing to speak under this portion of the agenda? Hearing and seeing none, we will move on to item number 10, agency member recognition. Comments made by the individual agency members during this portion of the agenda will not be acted upon by the agency unless that subject is on the agenda and scheduled for action. Is there any member of the redevelopment agency who wishes to speak under this portion of the agenda? And hearing and seeing none, this redevelopment agency is adjourned. We will start our council meeting. I have 6 minutes after.